Yo, yo, yo. Welcome. This is Last Call Reacts. Welcome. And if you've been here before, man, welcome back. Appreciate everybody. This is where I do Last Call Reacts on maybe a subject, maybe something going on in the news, something that intrigues me that I want to talk about for a few minutes. And of course, you could join me on the live Friday nights at 9 p.m. With my co-host Josephine as well. Feel free to leave comments, but do me a favor when you do leave a comment, man. Make it something substantial. You know, you don't have to like everything, and that's fine. But be specific. You know what you want to talk about, and make sure that you check out the whole thing, man. I'd love to have those conversations. So let's just get right into what we're talking about this week. This week, in Georgia, they handed down a verdict to a father who has been made not even really partially responsible, but you want to say accountable for his son, Colt Gray, from a mass school deletion. This is back in 2024. I want to give you the details, but this is the recent stuff. I'll tell you how we got here, where we're going, blah, 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 all that good stuff.
The father of the accused Appalachia High School shooter was found guilty on all 27 counts, including second-degree murder. The jury decided 55-year-old Colin Gray should have known his son was a danger and is legally responsible for the tragedy at the high school. Our Grace King was in the courtroom as the verdict was read, has covered the case from the very beginning. Grace joining us now from Barrow County with reaction to the end of this first-of-its-kind trial in Georgia, Grace.
Well, Cheryl, it was a quick verdict. Jurors reached that decision in less than an hour and a half. They were ready basically right after court began this morning to start filling out that form. All of them said unanimously, every single count given to them, guilty for Colin Gray, that he had sufficient warning that his son, Colt Gray, would carry out something like the Appalachia High School tragedy.
Now, I probably don't have to refresh your memory, but every once in a while, when it seems like these things pop up, you know, we've covered a few in the video, some of my past videos in here. You know, people want reform. They want to change. They want to point the finger. Who's responsible? What do we do with this? And like she said, this is one of the rare cases that the parent, I believe this is the second one in American history, make the parent a responsible party because they may seem negligent in the whole thing. Now, I know it's hard to call in the news when everybody has an opinion on it. You say, oh, start making the parents, you know, responsible for the whole deal. But then really in the court of law, you got to show, you know, if you have sufficient evidence, of course, to prove that the parent is completely not just negligent, but now they're adding, you know, more charges on making the parent responsible for the pathway. So let's just hear a little bit more, then I'll read some of the details.
That, of course, claimed lives of 4 people, injured 9, and just affected the lives of so many people. Colin didn't react much to that verdict being read in court today, but the families in the gallery just broke down crying. It's been a very emotional case for them. Of course, their lives were forever changed that day, and no verdict can ever bring them their loved ones back or their peace. However, they were glad to see some form of accountability. We also spoke with District Attorney Brad Smith. This is the first of its kind case in Georgia. Some people were saying, you know, what kind of example would this set? Are these charges too broad? But the jurors said, you know what? We believe that these charges were meant for Colin Gray. We believe he's guilty on all of them. Take a listen to what he had to say.
We talk a lot about.
Well, that's his attorney going to say a few words, of course. But what do you think? Is this a precedent now? Will it curb the violence that we've seen through this? Will this do anything for the gun laws and the responsibility of who's allowed to have it? Will it put restrictions on anything as well? So there's a couple things. Let me see if I scroll back on. Sorry if I'm not right on the ball. I just want to go back to something. Whoops, I was reading the right thing over here. So, all right. The father of, again, his name is Colin Gray. The kid's name, and kid because he still is 16, but you know, he was adult enough to do that. The one that is accused of that in a Georgia high school, they're saying that he knew of his son's deteriorating mental health state, his fascination with campus offings, And you know what? I'm going to just jumble up a whole bunch of information in here, and hopefully it'll make sense. So yeah, this kid did show. You know, you want to resort to the games. You know, you want to call games and stuff, but it was very big. Not only big gaming culture, but you know, a lot of drawings, a lot of you want to say telltale signs, but there were a lot of obvious signs. There were a lot of scribbling of things and notes and depictions. When major graphic depictions of this sort of, I'm trying to be careful with my words, this sort of stuff associated with the school deal there that he did. Not only that, for Christmas, when the kid Colt was only 14 years old, the father Colin bought him a AR teen when he was 14. Now this is a decision even Colin's father, Sir Colt's grandfather, would strongly disapprove with this. And with honestly, with some of the things that I read, it's sort of Colin felt powerful in the sort of defiance of what he's doing for what he thought he was doing for his son. Maybe he wanted to, this was his way of bonding, you know, pressing this in and stuff. Because he did take him hunting, you know, for I guess it would be a buck or a doe or something like that. And they have this recorded, you know, they were showing it on CNN. You know, the father said it was more in the lines of showing weapon safety more than anything else. But the video kind of had this bragging sort of thing, and you can see the kid is clearly uncomfortable though, because the it looks like the weapon outweighs him by several pounds and stuff. So none of that stuff was comfortable. But on top of that, like I said, he got it when he was 14 for Christmas. 14 is the age where he did the thing also at the high school. So not much time went ahead with this. Sorry, just reading, but I wanted to find this one part here too. So his mother, who is there's the parents are separated, right? But the mother took this stuff very hard in the trial, and they say, you know, she got into substances. I'll just leave it like that. And she's not doing well. But one thing is very clear. She says before, you know, they had separated and stuff. And this, you could start already see pieces of the ingredients that's really making this mess, you know. Not that anybody's been through divorce and stuff, but it also sounds like very toxic stuff, like when the parents use one against another, or there's a very dominating one, and you know, there's more of the submissive one. Obviously she's having, not saying in the whole situation, but I'm saying maybe in the way that they're dealing with this, you know, especially since I'm not sure how many kids, they didn't say how many kids or how big this family was, but now two of the boys, a boy and a man, you know, from your life are now taken. You don't know any agreement or anything that these guys had. And anyway, the mother said that signs were obvious that he needed help. The mother going through what she was going through, not to take any responsibility away from her or anything, but it clearly leads to the dad pushing this culture of hate and weapons and that sort of culture onto the son as well, who of course was impressionable at the time. So the mother going through her whole things mentioned anxiety. He would twitch. He would do a whole bunch of things. He was saying something like it was clear that he needed help. These messages were sent to the father. The father apparently brushed it off, is what they're saying. Investigators testified. I just want to read a couple more things. Of course, you could obviously look up this for yourself, but the main discussion for me is, did the court in Georgia do the right thing by the families, by the son, by the father, and just basically for the balance in society? Not that there'll ever be a balance when lives are lost like that, but I'm saying the most that you could do by the system. Is this the right way to go? So they also said Colin Gray was in touch with school staff in the weeks before the offing of his son's need for counseling and sent him in a form, but failed to follow up to ensure his son made appointments. And it said he did not, the kid Colt did not make any of the appointments. So that was the one thing he had to do. They said that he was pressured to do anything in there. But of course, if these are the sorts of things, and nobody's an expert in this, right? This guy could just be mad, aloof, or whatever the deal is, but obviously this is a little bit more than that. Additionally, Colin Gray did not follow up with counseling services offered by an outside organization. When asked about it, Colin said it was a matter of getting his insurance sorted out. All right, which, it doesn't sound like a responsible pops, especially you're seeing everything that's going on in the news here as well, right? So Colin Gray received text from his younger daughter saying the middle school was on lockdown. So the daughter was in the other school while the mass offing was at. This whole thing is nuts. But a couple things that I do know. Obviously, this impressionable kid, you don't want to put arms in the hands of somebody who's not experiencing mental stability. So that was way over his head of what his son needs. There were obviously signs that this kid needed help as well and didn't receive any, even when he was supposed to do a few little tasks of handing in paperwork and maybe doing some follow-ups. Like, he just doesn't sound like, dare I say, a great parent. And we've seen not quite situations like this, but some borderline ones where people say either the parent was negligent or, they weren't sure what their kid was up to at the same time. In this case, I think they made the right decision. I think I hope it sends out the type of message that they intend to send out with this. Like, look, if you're in charge of it, it starts at home. This is really what they should even call the law if they do that. Starts at home law. If you see some shit around there, don't just shrug it off. Don't just, it'll be okay. But again, it kind of tells you the type of person that this guy might be. Now, I don't know him personally. Can't say if he's a good guy or a bad guy. But I could sense also from reading some things that it was also contentious. There was a little, he wasn't too likable. So his son, if I didn't mention, Colt, at 14, he basically pleaded guilty on all charges. So whatever he was going through, they tell you fight all the defense, have this long drawn out trial, and maybe something clicked with him where it was the right thing to do, not pull everybody back through this mess and have people testify and everything. And maybe, somebody talked him into, look, just plead guilty. This is what you're facing. And he did that. The father, on the other hand, and he had 50 counts. The son, Colt, had 50 felony counts. The father, with 27 counts, put not guilty on everyone. So he put up a little bit of, not even a little bit, he put up a fight towards the whole thing, which may indicate some sort of defiance, that people are like, look, your son, admitted to this. You were part of the problem. It was also said that he didn't lock up the cases to the weapons or anything overnight, so they were easily accessible, for this kid Colt to put it in his bag on the way to school that day, September the 4th, 2004. So we had the thing in Austin lately. We still have a few of the mass things around. And again, these conversations are going to come up. But of course, I'm talking about the kids more related to the Columbine stuff, let's call it, while I give it a in parentheses in quotations over here. And listen, man, this is what we got. Please. It hasn't been flooding the news because we got the war, we got Epstein, we got all this sort of stuff going on right now. These things still matter. Somebody still has to keep an eye on what the kids are doing, what's safe, what they're getting away from viewing these bombings and turbulent times and lies and this and that. And it's never not a good time to talk to your kids. So find out what's going on. Make sure his kids are getting back to school. We're getting into springtime, make sure they're back in the right stuff. Their school equipment, not any animosity. Something to think about. Let me know what you think about it. Is this the precedence? We agree? Thanks for checking me out, man. This is Last Call Reacts. See you around.
Ooh.